let's do an entire episode about that one imagination, that one nightmare bit that Doug had where the pimple came
Yep,
out and was talking to him. Let's just do a
exactly.
whole episode about that for our real I don't like that. No, no, thank you. Gross. I'll pass.
You have
It's
a
like
thing about pimples,
it's like
Alex?
my wife watches Dr. Pimple Popper all
No,
the time.
Oh, dude,
All the time.
you gotta understand, I do too.
no.
Something about it. Something about
Yeah,
it.
there's something about it. It's gross. That's what it is.
It's satisfying. That's what
No,
it is.
it
No,
is
it's
not.
not. Welcome to Splat Attack, a 90s podcast honoring the slime-filled past. I'm your jackrabbit or something cat.
I be your high heel wearing monster, always in a bad mood, Manny.
And I'm your big-lipped black and white candy cane, Alex. And guys,
Yeah?
why is there caution tape strung across the bathroom door?
There's a monster in the toilet.
Sure there is.
I'm serious. I was on the toilet getting ready to do my business, and all of a sudden I just saw some hairy monster just flush himself up from the toilet.
Well, I mean, that's not exactly unheard of, especially this time of year.
You mean Halloween?
Nope, not quite.
You mean my birthday?
Nope, but happy birthday, Manny.
Thank you.
I mean the anniversary of the premiere of Real Monsters.
The 30th anniversary, no less.
Yes, we are celebrating the 30th anniversary of Real Monsters.
Now you gotta
And-
say it like
See, I would, but my microphone will cancel out every time I try to scream. But I think this is a first. This is the first time we've had a 30th anniversary and no one from the show be a part of it.
Ew.
I'm from the show. I lived in the dump, and I literally directed the monsters.
I thought
as
you
they
had to
were coming
take a
up.
dump.
Oh, yeah, I think I did have to take a dump. Sorry. I'm wrong. I'm not from the show. Sorry.
I mean, yes, potty humor, but it's Real Monsters. There's potty humor throughout, so get over it. But no, I did reach out to several of the cast and crew and the creators, and I only heard from one person, and he was all for it. And then something came up and he wasn't able to make it, unfortunately. So this was one I just didn't have any luck getting anybody for. So perhaps another future Real Monsters episode. But as is, we still have a lot to talk about. It's still a great show, and we're still going to celebrate it. So that being said, who wants to go over the show summary for me?
Manny, it's your birthday.
Sure. Okay. Well, Real Monsters premiered on October 29th, 1994, and ran for 4 seasons for a total of 52 episodes, 102 segments, plus an unaired pilot. It was also the 5th Nicktoon premiere after Doug, Rugrats, Ren and Stimpy, and Rocko's Modern Life. The pilot episode was later remade into the episode Monsters Get Real. The show follows 3 young monsters in training, Ickis, Crumb, and Oblina, after they attend the Monster Academy under a city landfill where they learn how to scare humans. Do you want me to read the characters too?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay.
What? Hey, Manny.
Sure.
Hey, Manny.
Yeah,
Hey, Manny.
yeah. What's up?
Manny.
What's up? Yeah.
Manny.
Huh?
What's happening?
Alex.
Why are we
Manny.
leaving?
Hey, cat.
Loud noises!
Cat.
Alex.
Manny.
Yes.
Hey, cat. Cat.
What?
Tell Manny that I want him to go over the cast of characters.
Manny,
Yes, Cat.
Alex would like you to go over the cast of characters. I just snapped my neck. Ow, that hurts.
Oh no.
30 years! It's been 30
10,000 years will give you
Give you
such a
crick in the
crick in the
neck.
neck.
The neck. Ah.
Okay, well, we can discuss these characters later, but these list of characters also include Ickis, voiced by Charlie Adler, Oblina by Christine Cavanaugh, the Grumble by Greg Berger, the Snorch, David Eccles, Zimbo, Tim Curry. Didn't know that.
Did we ask Tim Curry if he could make it?
I think he's busy doing the time warp.
Eh.
Or he's running a
Just
hotel.
jump to the left.
Step to the right.
Simon the Ghost Hunter, voiced by Jim Belushi, Bradley Brett Alexander, and Horvath David Eccles again, and Slickus by Billy Vera.
And Crumb by David Heckler David Easilis
Okay, Alex.
Xlax.
Excellent.
Well, I do have a question regarding the characters.
Sure.
Who's your favorite character?
As a kid, I liked Ickis.
Same.
As an adult, I like Oblina too, but I have a new appreciation for Crumb because he's just really chill. Like Ickis is too high strung, Oblina is too much of a perfectionist, and then you got Crumb who's just kind of wisecracking a little bit. They're in the sewer at one point and they're like he's like, what do you they're like there's a tidal wave coming in the sewer. He's like, well, what are we gonna do? He goes, the backstroke. He's just like every line he says is a punchline. It's like, oh, it's water with some extra goodies.
And he's just so laid back, you know?
He's got that surfer dude voice too. He's just kind of
I
like, bro.
I love being smelly.
Yeah, like that's perfect right there, Alex.
Mhm.
Man.
Manny, who's your favorite?
Uh it's gonna sound like I'm repeating, but I loved Ickis growing up as well. I still like Ickis even as an adult. It's just something about him. He was just so innocent. He kind of gave me Chucky vibes. And I just you just want to love him, you know? And he tried to be so perfect because his father, I believe, was like the top scarer. So he wanted to live up to that, and that's a lot of pressure, especially on a little guy like that. And whenever push comes to shove, he grows really big and he's scary, super scary. Just like that toy that Cat has, it's just like that.
Yeah, I thought that Ickis had, out of the three, Ickis had the easiest scare power or the best scare power because, I mean, Crumb, it's like, yeah, eyeballs, gross, running around naked with your hairy armpits, thinking that that's gross, but like, Ickis can grow to a huge size and get his fangs and his eyes turn red. Like, that's pretty powerful, but he's just such a little wimpy guy.
But I mean, holding onto your eyeballs, that's something right there. Like that would get annoying after a while, don't you think?
Yeah, it takes a lot of coordination.
A lot of hand-eye coordination. See, yes, as a kid, Ickis was my favorite. I, I think if I was who I'm most like, it would be Crumb because of, the smart aleck attitude, the fairly laid back personality, because for the most part I am. And also, if I could just be smelly and run around naked, I would. But, it's often frowned upon in society, so I don't. But my favorite character as an adult is the Grumble.
Yeah.
Just how he goes from 0 to 100 at a second's notice. It's so good. I love that so much. There's your one for the episode, Cat. Although I'll probably say it more than once, I'm sure I usually do. But I really love how he would be, oh yes, we're so excited. And then I'm going to kill you for looking at me wrong. Really, I loved that character. And for the longest time, I thought that was Tim Curry. Until I got back into the episodes again, and then I realized, oh, it's. I mean, Tim Curry's in it, but it wasn't the Grumble. I thought it was the Grumble for many years. Just kept waiting for a smashing to come out of the Grumble's voice at one point, but alas.
You gotta wait 7 years or so for another Nicktoon to do that.
Yeah.
But going along with the animation, because this was done by Klasky Chupo, Klasky Supo, however you want to pronounce it, because I'm sure I'll say it wrong. But I don't I don't know how the two of you feel, but I loved the marriage between Klasky's animation style and All Real Monsters, because I didn't care for their animation style when it comes to people. I don't Rugrats. Okay, I can get behind Rugrats. It was an unusual style. It fit. It was its own thing. But then watching shows, we're seeing designs for like Rocket Power, especially Rocket Power, and
Yeah.
then animation style for As Told by Ginger. I don't like how they do faces, how they do people. It
Yeah,
really,
something about the noses
Hmm.
and stuff just didn't
yeah.
seem right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think out of all the Nicktoons, the animation style fit like Aura Monsters, it fits like out of all of them. Even with Rugrats, like there's something innocent about it. It's very I don't know the correct terms for it, but it's kind of in the same vein as like the Squiggle Vision, where it's like a little more rudimentary, and that makes sense for like young babies and rudimentary style and stuff. But I think that there's something about that I want to say like the texture. Like if you look in the background behind me, like you can see like the little hairs and like the wrinkles in Oblina's lips. There's something about it where it's not like the gross ups like Ren and Stimpy or anything, but there's something about it that's a
It
little raw.
it feels dingy and dirty.
Which is
Yeah,
Be-
perfect for that show.
which is perfect.
because they would do that a lot. They would add wrinkles into everything. The skin, wallpaper, floor, couches. They have these little black lines throughout everything to give it a little bit of texture, make it look bumpy or rigid or all these different things. So they had these outlines throughout. And
But not a lot of light and shadow. It's really
no,
flat otherwise.
Yeah.
So yeah.
A lot of the texture comes from like the color palette that they use too, because it's so gray, dingy looking. And that's what fit great for that show as well. Not to mention every monster has such a unique design.
yes.
Not saying that Monsters Inc. was anything uncreative, because it was, but this show kind of steps it up a notch. I feel like it sort of gives you that grungy, early mid 90s style to it. Because everybody looks so different.
Yeah, the characters all have very different designs. I mean, there was one that was essentially a giant nose with a hook for a one leg with one like claw, and then butterfly wings, or not butterfly wings, but like wasp's wings or something like that. And
There's one that was like a bucket of slime. Like
I mean, the designs for these things were so inventive, and I love what you were saying about the color palette, because it's just dingy and gray and brown, and who would want that as a coloring book? Because you would get a coloring book and you want to put bright, fun colors, and then yeah, All Real Monsters coloring book, gray, brown, black. But if you really wanted to do it the way it was in the show, but the fact that, and I don't mean that as an insult. I mean there's so many different shades of gray and brown and black and dark blue and all these things, even though it's really dirty and murky and muddy. It really lends itself to this underground dirty atmosphere, which I really appreciate.
but then every now and then you get a pop of color like the Gromble's shoes and Oblina's lips. Like it's the same shade of red almost. But yeah, every now and then you get like these contrasting pops of color that are really interesting. And I have to say the episode Manny mentioned Monsters Get Real, they sort of reworked the pilot and made it into the second episode. You can tell like partway through the animation style changes a bit, and Ickis has glasses at one point and then he doesn't. Like you can tell the early animation versus the more refined animation, and that's really interesting. I almost prefer the earlier ones for the show because it's a little more, yeah, dingy dirty.
It was so smart to have him have glasses. I love that whole idea.
But also, I feel the same way about Rugrats, the first few seasons when they were really starting and had that raw, rough look. But then once they got really popular, they had more of a budget, it got more polished. And I don't know, I prefer the other one. And same for like Beavis and Butthead. The first season
Oh,
or two seasons,
you're
they
talking
look,
about yeah, you're talking about those like Blood Drive and
yeah,
Stewart's House. Yeah, those are
it
rough.
was rough looking, but and of course they got more budget later and they were able to make it look much more refined. And I don't know what it is about the rough animation style that I appreciate. I think it's because we see so little of it. Because we're used to seeing animation so pristine, and they want these to look as beautiful as possible. And then you have others that are just like, no, it adds character. Add in the roughness. Let it go through. And I think that's why I like that so much.
I mean, it sort of gives it its own personality, right? Like to its own show. Like you're watching this show that looks like this for this reason, and that sort of explains the episodes that you're watching. Like everything nowadays on animation, it just looks so everything looks the same. It's so perfectly done. There's something awesome about like the cells and the dirt clods that you see in it and everything. And that's missing nowadays, I believe, because everything's so computerized.
Uh Favorite episodes.
I would like to first say that my choice of a favorite episode, well, I have many. I have many favorite episodes, but I'd say it would be Spontaneously Combustible.
Yes!
Holy crap, really?
I was rewatching the series all the way through and it went to Spontaneously Combustible, and that was another sort of, unlocked moment in my brain where like I had forgotten all about it, and then as it was playing, I remembered every single line of dialogue as it was going. Did they play that one so often that like that's yeah, it's like the episode.
I remember the premise, and then as soon as I was watching it, I'm like, this is the episode. I had no idea. So yeah, it totally made me so happy to see it. Man, it's just something about it too. It's like you felt so bad for Ickis because you know that feeling of like everybody's like, oh, they're going away from me because I'm like they said I'm sick or I have cooties or something, and everybody's like going away, and you're like by yourself, and you try to just
Yeah.
prove to them like, no, I'm a person too. And Ickis went through that motion, and it was so heartwarming to see Ickis and Crumb embrace. That was so sweet. My God, he just get it like right in the feels.
No. I liked the Ickis box too. There were a whole bunch from like late season one, early season two, where I either played them a lot or like I don't know, I like them a lot. But that's the Ickis box is when Ickis wants to show the monsters that TV isn't horrendous, and they try to make their own television set. There's a lot of inside jokes in that one. It's a little meta. And I don't remember what episode it is, but I just remember Oblina saying the lamp when she sees the lava lamp in the store window, and like they're all mesmerized by the lava lamp. That seems like a core memory. Where even Ickis like mimics her accent a lot in that one specifically, where she's like the lamp. He's like, yeah, it's the lamp, the lamp, the lamp.
Sounds like the whole argument of like vase or vase, kind of like that in a
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
Yeah. the, the other one that I love too is the Shrink, because it sort of gives you the origin story of the Grumble, and this was his teacher and how he got those high heel shoes. That was also my very first episode. I remember flipping. Yeah, it was. I was flipping channels, and I'm like Nickelodeon, and there's this Real Monsters show. I was really interested to see, and it's the motion where it's like Ika says, like, I've been here in the past life. We've been down this street about 4 times already. So I remember that line so well because I remember that was the first thing I saw. And I loved it. The other thing that I really liked, which was a really nice touch, is when they go think about like I think they went back in time, and it was that 1950s cartoon style where they all had like the eyes and like have just big
Like
pupils and stuff like
the
that.
Mickey Mouse sort of,
Yeah.
yeah,
Like,
like
give me those
Steamboat
sling bags and
Willie.
a 7 and step on it. I was like,
Yeah, see?
yeah,
Yeah.
you see? And it was cool. It gave you that sort of origin story of why the Gromble's upset because his toes are pinched because he could have got those shoes in a bigger size. And they made a reference to the black shoes from the pilot as well, so it was cool.
I was gonna say Old Monster, because that's the name of that one. I was gonna say that one, especially now that I work with a lot of elderly people, and a lot of times they feel very unappreciated, especially by the newer generation. But there's a lot to be learned from the older generation, and it doesn't matter what age you are. It doesn't matter if you're our age or our kids' age. There's still a lot of history that we can learn from our elders. And I love that this episode really took to that. Yes, it was the Grumble's influence, but the whole episode they're just like, yeah, but he's old, he's slow, he's boring. But once they actually stopped to listen to him, he's got some really good stories, and he actually got to do some really cool things. And then by the end of it, they can't wait to hear more stories, and I really appreciated that. But Kat, I interrupted you. What was you going to say?
No, I was gonna say the episode, I think it's just called The Tree of Ickis, where Ickis literally like turns into a tree. Like that was just a random one that like that's another one I saw when it was playing. I was like, wait, that wasn't a fever dream? Because it seemed weird even for the show.
He
It
went
was
full David the Gnome.
Yeah, that depressing ending.
no,
Oh
no,
no. Oh, okay.
no. But he turned into a tree. Um, but yeah, like he eats an acorn or something. It's kind of like along the lines of like when Chucky eats the watermelon. It's like, oh, you're gonna get a watermelon tummy. Like he eats an acorn. It's like, oh, you're gonna turn into a tree. No, I'm not. Yes, he does. Like so, and then he's gonna get cut down by the I think they just called loggers. But yeah, the he's oh you got the mark, you got the X on you. Oh, they're gonna chop you down. It's like what are we doing? What is happening?
I don't remember the name of the episode, but it was I don't want to say the whole episode was my favorite, but the portion of it. There's one portion of this one episode that I really thought was funny. I'm not a Beatles fan. Big shocker, everyone. Not a Beatles fan, but they really had a Beatles reference, because they were playing this video of someone going to a Beatles concert, or a band concert, and then when they got there they ended up scaring the crowd, and the crowd was screaming, but when people were watching it, it was like, oh no, they were screaming for the Beatles. No, they were screaming because there was a monster that scared the crap out of them. And I really liked that little moment. I thought that was cool.
That's neat.
Yeah. What do you guys think is in the you don't want to know door number 3?
Hmm.
Oh, is that one of your
Well, it was like
questions?
a. I
No,
thought
no,
it was
no.
gonna be.
That was one of my episodes. The because that was the first episode. And I remember being really excited because Nickelodeon has something new. Every time Nickelodeon had anything new, I couldn't wait to watch it. And so I watched the first episode, and I was like, this is pretty cool. I wasn't overwhelmed or blown away by it, but I enjoyed it. And I also enjoy the macabre. I always have. I love the monsters and Adam's Family, and this dark, twisted sense of humor. And Our Real Monsters, it combines that with child humor, and I liked that. And I remember seeing that. I forgot what they called it though, but it was like something bad, something
Something
really
really
bad,
bad.
and
It's like
you don't
you
even want to
don't want to
know.
know.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
there's even a sign out there that says
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's is it I kind of thought it was implied that because it's so cutesy and everything that like that's what was scary to monsters.
Yes, that's what I
So
think.
it wasn't like a torture device like the others
No,
seemed
it
to
was
be.
just
It
something really
was just
sweet.
like yeah, tea party. Yeah.
Yeah, because there was like in the Adams Family Values, uh Morticia had to their baby, Pubert, was turning cute and had those blonde curls, and she's sitting there reading The Cat in the Hat to him, and she absolutely hates it, to the point where she turns it, and there's the Cat in the Hat, and she just goes, oh no, he lives. So that and like the part where Wednesday Pugsley and the other kid they're sitting in the Happy Hut and they're surrounded by niceness and they make them watch like Little Mermaid and Annie and really sweet things. That's exactly what I imagine. You don't even want to know to be.
That's actually a really good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was either that episode or the second one where they're going to scare, is it Bradley? But the his brother thinks that they're like all the monsters are toys, so they have to like pose or whatever. And then he picks Crumb up. He's like, "What's this one?" And he gets a key off the floor, and there's like this walking bear that goes, I love you," and then he sticks the key in Crumb's butt and twists it, and then Crumb just goes, "I love you, I love you." I was like, "This is a kids show."
Well, they're trying to be incommunicado, you know.
Well, I mean, there was an episode the Oh Lucky Ickus or
Yes.
something like that.
Monster, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
Oh
like,
Lucky
oh look,
Monster,
the
and
rabbit foot, yeah,
the
Oh
fact
yes.
that
Oh yes. Oh yes.
rubbing the thing.
Oblina
Yeah.
was rubbing the fishbone
Yeah.
Yeah.
in the bushes, and you just see the camera has pulled back, and she's, oh yes, oh come on baby, oh come on baby, oh please.
Aren't you supposed to use two fingers? Yeah. That's a line in the show. Just
Yep.
telling you.
It is. It is. If you're watching as an adult, there are certain lines I was just like, "Hello, okay."
I'll tell you one I did not like, and I can't think of the episode, but it was one where Crumb had a zit.
They played that one a lot too. I think it was just Crumb. Was it just called Crumb's pimple or Crumb's? Yeah, something like that.
It was just, I mean, yes, gross. You know, it's all real monsters. It's supposed to be gross, but as a kid, I was like, yeah, okay, let's do an entire episode about that one imagination, that one nightmare bit that Doug had, where the pimple came out and was talking to him. Let's just do a whole episode about that for our real I don't like that. No, no, thank you. Gross. I'll pass.
You have
It's
a
like
thing about pimples, Alex?
it's like my wife watches Dr. Pimple Popper all the time.
Oh, dude,
All the time.
you gotta understand, I do too.
No.
Something about it. Something about
Yeah,
it.
there's something about it. It's gross. That's what it is.
It's satisfying. That's what it
No,
is.
it
No,
is
it's
not.
not.
I think I
I'm
told
alone
my
here.
wife once, I'd rather you watch porn than watch Dr. Pimple Popper. I can't stand this. It's so gross. No, I don't want the Crumb Pimple episode. No.
I just love how pimples
No.
are like one of those things where it's like, oh no, I can't look at that.
And
No.
it's not even that gross. Like it's the human body. Like but I don't want to see it from somebody else.
Well, Crumb is like, you know what? I don't even know what Crumb is supposed to be. Like, is he a human body? I don't know. The only thing human about him is his feet and his hands.
And
And
his
his
butt.
butt.
Like, oh yeah, and his butt too. How can I forget? But it's like, what is he supposed to be though?
A
Like,
monster.
And what are
I
any of
think
them
he's-
supposed to be?
Yeah,
Like,
it's so weird. He's like the most close to human thing.
it's true. Yeah.
Yeah,
I like his dad has instead of an eye patch, he has the black glove and he's missing an eye. That's so clever. That is so clever.
Or pirate.
I gotta mention something too. This goes along with another favorite episode of mine, the Pool of Elders. It was such a unique idea to have the monsters being able to scare in order to exist. And just that episode alone is like, it was up to Ickes to figure out like how to turn into like one big monster just to have everybody's help because they were all coming apart at the seams. Everybody was because humans were just not being scared anymore. And that gives it a really, really great mythology and it's makes for a really good episode.
Yeah, eat your heart out, Monsters Inc.
Oh, we have to scare, but no, we need screams for power. Yeah,
We
I
scare
don't-
because we care.
Disney's got nothing against that.
I didn't know until recently that Jim Belushi was the one who voiced Simon.
I didn't know that either.
And it's like I can't unhear it. I was gonna say it makes so much sense, but like I don't know. People pick on Jim Belushi. It's like, oh yes.
I like him. He's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got nothing bad to say about him. I mean, the very first time I saw him, it was him as Santa Claus on Jingle All the Way. So I'll never forget that. That ain't my bag, baby.
But yeah, monster hunting. I remember there were a couple sound bites. The one I think might be a quote that we're saving for later.
Oh,
But
is it the one? Okay, I think I know which one.
the other one was just he catches them. He's like, "I'm good. I'm good. I'm really really good."
I loved him. I loved him so much.
That's my line, Manny.
Oh,
I
it's
love
your
it
line.
so much. I made a comment that Alex says I love it so
I
much.
do. I say it a lot.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Oh yeah.
Well played.
I'll tell you another episode that I really like, and it's not an All Real Monsters episode, but it's, and I'm sure you know where I'm going with it, the Rugrats episode, because
Mm-hmm.
there was a crossover with All Real Monsters and Rugrats, and it was the Ghost Story Rugrats episode where you've got Tommy as this ghost, but at one point they walk into a room and there's Ickis, Oblina, and Crumb watching TV, and they like look back at the Rugrats and they slam the door. But that was a cool little cross universe thing that we never really thought we'd see, especially with Rugrats of all things. But I like the way they're working together.
I mean, Rugrats had a couple episodes too that could have lent themselves to like they had Under the Chucky's Bed episode where,
Which was David
yeah.
Ecclesiastes. Hey, Chucky.
Hey Chucky.
Who's
Yeah.
to say that that wasn't Crumb? Just saying. Could have been.
Yeah.
Because Alex, you said it yourself on the episode. Like you weren't even scared of that.
I
You found
wasn't.
it more
It
funny
could
than
still
anything
be,
else.
it could still have been Crumb, and it's just like he put the sweater there after the fact. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Especially if it was smelly.
Yeah.
I got some candy for you.
The other thing too that I want to mention about episodes is the episode where they're joined at the hip. I loved Ickis and Crumb conforming into one monster. That was such a unique idea, and the whole like the whole gag of like if you think you guys are best friends and try living with each other, you know, type of thing. And it's like you realize that oh, you just annoy each other. Like sleeping on your back or I sleep on my belly type of thing. Or it's like you want to walk to the right, you want to walk to the left, and they can't come to a simple solution. So at the end they just separate each other and they're happy with just like, hey, you're a nice place to be, but I wouldn't want to live there type of thing. So I thought it was a really, really neat idea.
Well, and then they get joined with the Grumble accidentally.
That's right. That's right. They did at the very end.
That's like the equivalent of that was their idea of doing the handcuff episode that so many people have done, or so many episode shows have done.
It's handcuffed, and then it's also sort of like walk a mile in your shoes type of thing too. So it's not just you're joined together. It's like they're literally a part of each other, and they have to deal with their
They're
own.
they're full on cat dogged.
Exactly.
They are. Actually, they are. I never thought about that.
Only Crickus had a butt.
I also like to think like every show tried to do its own gross out thing, but I like to consider it Ren and Stimpy light, I would say. Like,
Hmm.
don't you think All Real Monsters is kind of like that in a way?
Like ideas are gross. And yeah, you have Oblina who turns herself inside out, and you have some vomitous things, but it's not beautiful paintings about really gross things. It's just that rough, well, the animation style that we were talking about earlier, but it's more the idea of just, oh, these things are gross, like a pimple, but you don't actually see anything really gross. Like the ideas are just, ugh.
Just saying they're not that bad. Just saying.
But yeah, just the idea of like flushing down the toilet. And you don't see necessarily hyper realistic sewage, but you know they're swimming in it. Water with a few extra goodies, according to Crumb.
Couple extra chocolate bars.
Yeah, I was thinking Caddyshack. It's no big deal.
Yeah. Uh, the lips have it. That's a classic.
Oh,
Oh
yes.
yeah.
Just having Oblina's lips completely fall off of her and land on a wannabe model, shall you say. And I would love to know, like, watching it as an adult now, she was using bad language whenever it would just cut back to Oblina. And that's when that I guess model artist person was like, "Oh my god, she's got that superstar attitude." So that's what he loved about it. And then when she was herself, she's like, leave me alone." So it's like you have to have Oblina's sass in order to make that work. But that's always one that always comes to my mind whenever I think about All Real Monsters. Like, oh, I remember
Mm.
that one. That was a good one. So
And the one where she gets braces
yeah, yeah, that's right.
because her teeth are too straight and too perfect, so she gets like headgear
Yeah.
essentially. And I forget the other monster's name, but he only goes out with her because he can see his reflection in the metal. So, and she ends up like instead of turning herself inside out, she like turns the brace like into her mouth. So she's got this mouthful of metal, and she's just like,
Yeah.
ah,
And Crumb's like, yeah, he won't be able to notice. So it's like, I like that one too. It also shows like some people that are obsessed with themselves too. It's like maybe just to stay away from people like that, you know? So it's like, I'm not talking about you, Alex. You care about
Because you
everybody.
should at all times.
Hmm.
Oh, there's another one where because the monsters use toenails as currency.
I wish I could do that in real life.
And there's this guy for whatever reason, this human who saves his own toenail clippings and Ickis finds them and he's rich. Um and yeah, it's the old like, don't mismanage your money and like Ickis ends up buying a big apartment for a big house or whatever for all the for Carmen Oblina to live with him and he just gets to be intolerable and then he runs out of toenails and
Yeah.
but yeah, it was just the human character, the fact that again it was a human, crudely drawn human clipping his own overgrown toenails to save
Yeah.
them. I was just like, okay, here's a little of the gross out humor.
So here's a fun story. Since we don't have any major guests and we have some time for fun stories. My art school, my art teacher, there's only so many things you could do in art class. Like most of it, especially whenever it was like art 3, it's mostly just here's an assignment. Now do your artwork. And then he would stand in class and just tell us stories. All true stories that he experienced while we're, painting. One of them was when he was in college. He had a dorm room. He had to stay in a dorm room with a couple other people, but there was one person who was on the floor that they were at. He was just a jerk constantly. He was super arrogant, and he would always short sheet his roommates' beds. There was like 3 guys in one room. And short sheeting, for those of you slimesters who don't know, they would tuck very, very tightly the sheets to the bed under the mattress. And it whenever they get in bed, the sheets would only go up to your chest, and then they'd have to pull and pull until they pull so hard the sheets would come out from under the mattress, and then they'd have to get out of bed, retuck, and it's annoying. And he would do this to these guys all the time. And he thought it was the funniest thing. And
Oh.
no one on this floor could really stand this guy. He's just an arrogant jerk. So people kept, talking to the other 2 guys, and they said, "Oh no, we 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 got this covered. We got this covered. Hi, Phoebe."
You could hear her.
And then he said one night they were in bed. Like most of this dorm was in bed. He had I think an evening job, and he came in late, and then everyone on the dorm floor was awakened by this blood curdling scream, and they heard laughter, like hysterical laughter. And then people start coming out into the hallway, and he is out. Jerk is out in the hallway, brushing off his body in just his boxer shorts. And the other 2 guys are in the doorway, cackling and high fiving each other. They had been saving their toenails and fingernail clipping,
Ew.
and they sprinkled it in his bed.
Ew.
So when he got
Uh-uh.
there at night and the lights are off, and they were like, "Yeah, you short sheet us all the time. So here, have something else." And he got in bed and didn't know. And it was like, "What is this?" And turned the light on, freaked out, and he never short sheeted them again. So when every time now with the guy who saves his toenail clippings on the on RO Monsters, I'm like, "Yep, think of the the college dorm room that my
So
art
how
teacher
That's
how
freaky,
long
man.
were they planning that? Like what?
a
That had to
couple of
take some
months.
time. Oh,
A couple of
Yeah.
months. Yeah, they didn't hardly even had any, and they're like, "No, do it anyway."
That's a yikes.
because I'm just like, there had to have been a point where it's like they were doing this. They're like, are we still doing this?
I'm
You
sure
know,
they did. I wouldn't be surprised if they
they
went to some other people.
committed. They committed to this. Wow, I can only imagine just crawling into bed and just feeling like, I don't like that. I don't like that
Ah,
at
real
all.
toenails.
Ah! I'm rich.
New York.
Yeah. Oh my god.
That's another episode where
Great one where Ickis goes into his
Ickis goes-
brain.
I'm like, that's anatomically incorrect, but okay, let's roll with it.
I remember being so scared about that. Like I was imagining, like, can they really crawl into my ear and go into my brain? You gotta also understand I was a kid, so yeah, I believed it.
The imagination of a child.
I mean, I just can't imagine and seeing like all the inner workings of the brain and seeing him pull and tug on those electrical things or whatever, that connect to the eyeballs and everything. It's like, oh my God, it was so freaky.
He leaves his imprint. Like after he leaves, he's like leaves an indentation in his brain matter.
Here's the thing. And I remember that finishing scene right there. And I remember turning away. I literally could not look at that imprint. I swear to God, I only saw that one time. And then every time I saw the rerun, I had to turn away. I couldn't look at it. It was that freaky to me.
Meanwhile, Phoebe is trying to chew on Oblina.
Oh no!
No, Phoebe.
Lies beyond my years.
Cat, that's awesome. Oh man, that's great.
But yeah, I've got Grumble, Ickis, and Oblina here. If we want to talk about like
Yeah,
merch,
merchandise.
they had
Action
the
figures.
Mattel
Yeah.
action figures. I had a Crumb too. So these two, Ickis and Grumble, are my originals from like 94, 95. And then I repurchased Oblina because Oblina and Crumb accidentally, I'm pretty sure they got into the wrong bag and were ended up being donated instead of the everything I want to keep bag. It ended up in the just give it away. So Crumb's floating around out there somewhere. But yeah,
I really like that one. See, I've seen the Ickis, but I don't think I've ever seen any other figure.
yeah. So here, let me take my background off. Do. Okay. So yeah, Oblina's mouth opens and her tongue kind of folds out. Her legs are all bendy. And then don't chew on the Grumble. The Grumble, he came with a little, like a small monster to put in his mouth, and his tail, if you push on his tail, it sort of ejects the monster, so he chews him up and spits him out.
He does? Oh
Yeah,
my
but I
God.
lost the little, it was like a little orange monster that he would just, and then yeah, Ickis, you just press on the back of his head, and his teeth are attached to the eyes, this piece in here, so that when you open his mouth, his eyes turn red and his
That
teeth
is
come out.
that is so cool.
And
Oh
then
my God.
the Crumb one, it's like Alex's costume where he's holding his hands, or he's holding his eyes in his hands, and there was little strings on the eyeballs that you could like, so you wouldn't lose the eyeballs at the first go, but you could take them and put them in his mouth if you wanted to, but the strings were still there, so you didn't lose them. And then I think he supposedly smelled, but he didn't smell gross. He smelled like a heightened version of like plasticky, sunscreeny, kind of like a weird, grossish smell, but it wasn't like garbage. It was something tolerable so that you wouldn't, you would want to play with it still, but it did have an odor to it. And he had the tufts of armpit hair that were a little odd to see on an action figure.
That is really unique too. Wow, I didn't know that existed. That is so cool.
Yeah. There were other
Jeez
ones too.
Louise.
I don't even remember, like, I didn't know that they were monsters from the show. I think they just kind of took some of the illustrations and made their own, but there are other ones that turned all the way inside out so that, yeah, like stuff like that where, yeah, the other classmates of the monsters. But yeah, I had the main four, the Fab Four.
Yeah, they had a lot of merch for All Real Monsters. I think they had more merch at the time. I think this had the most merchandise at the time, is Rugrats didn't have a
More than
whole lot.
Rugrats?
Not
Now,
till later. Yeah.
Rugrats, whenever like the movie came out, like late 90s, like 97 through 99, Rugrats merch blew up. But at the time, I think when All Real Monsters came out, it had more merch than any other Nicktoon.
I feel like around that time, they're like 95, 96. Because I remember when I saw these, first saw these, it was in a display. There was like a Nickelodeon toy display within Toys R Us. They had its own Nickelodeon section. And at that point they had like the employees of Toys R Us there to sort of, here's a GAC demonstration, here's like the Floam demonstration, and they had like Pogs that you could get with like Ren and Stimpy on them. And it was like this big, like that was, I want to be there. I want to go to there. But yeah, they had one of those big orange blimps flying over the section too. So like was beckoning to all the kids, all the Nickelodeon kids.
Yeah, because
Um,
they had the toys that you were talking about. And there was a whole toy line, which was fantastic. Um, they had Valentine's cards. They had tattoos. They had stickers. They had plush toys. They had books. They had VHS tapes. Um, they had flashlights, which I think Emery, when he was on
he
our
did.
list,
He had an
collected, he
Oblina.
he had one of those, and I think they had like three different ones. And yeah, you've got. I mean, this was from the Nick box, and there is an Oblina umbrella, which is super expensive now. If you try to get one of those things are super pricey, which really surprises me, and I'm really happy that I still have mine.
Good.
Hmm. I still have my Cynthia doll.
You have a Cynthia doll?
Yeah, it was in the first Nick box.
Holy crap, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Jeez. Oh, you know what? I know we're not talking about Rugrats, but that's a great segue to this question. Do you think that Cynthia always had that weird hair, or do you feel like Angelica was the one that ripped it?
Angelica took all that out.
Angelica.
Okay.
She
That's
took
kind of a
all that out.
that's a debate I was having with myself. It's like, why does the doll look like that? Like, did she do that or was it yeah.
Because she's weird Barbie.
Yeah, she
Like
is.
she is weird Barbie.
I would think so. Especially flushed down the toilet. Yeah.
Going back to not Stinky Diver. But going back to Real Monsters, also behind you there, Alex.
Hmm.
Is that the Super NES game? Yes.
Wow.
Which we did cover on our Nickelodeon video game episode. And I think of all of the Nickelodeon, like old school Nickelodeon video games, this one is the most enjoyable. It's actually playable
Hmm.
and can be fun. Uh,
If I remember correctly, when they're idling, they do cool stuff
yeah,
too.
they
Like
do
doesn't
fun stuff.
Crumb just juggles his eyeballs or something whenever he's just standing there, and then Oblina I think kind of like looks at the screen and sort of like goes does the turning inside out thing for like 2 seconds when she's waiting for you to come on, keep moving.
A lot of games did that back in the day
Yeah,
too.
like when you'd leave, like you'd play Sonic and just not do anything, and
He'd
Sonic
just
would go
be
to sleep.
tapping his
Or
foot
tap
too
his
and
foot,
everything.
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, he tapped his foot, and then eventually, well, Mario went to sleep eventually on 64. But yeah, they had some really fun animation, and I think there was a different combination, different. There was one extra button feature on the Super Nintendo than there was the Sega. You could still do essentially the same things, but you had to do a certain combination on the Sega Genesis controller because there was only 3 buttons. But you didn't need that button combination for the Super Nintendo because it had 4 buttons. But yeah, of all the old school video games that Nickelodeon put out, all the Ren and Stimpy's, screw that Rocco's Modern Life one. I hate that one. And then the Guts one, which I could do okay with. Brett was he was ready to destroy, like completely nuke bomb that game. He hated that game. But Our Real Monsters, in which I also mentioned in the other episode, had an arcade game.
An arcade
I
game?
don't know if I ever saw the arcade game.
I've never seen it in person. I would love to find it, but it's essentially a ticket game. Kind of
Like skee
like
ball or
like
something?
no, it kind of like the Price is yeah, Price is Right, where you'd have the giant wheel and spin the wheel, and it would land on a ticket number, and that's how many tickets you would get. It's kind of that combined with um the use the sledgehammer to knock the bell, hit the bell at the top. It's essentially that, only it's a plunger on top of a toilet. And you have the same thing where all these numbers are going up, like 2 4 0, which I think was, I don't know if it was 0 or if it was 10. But I think it was a 0, and then it would go to 6, and then it would go back down again, and the light would move up and down, indicating which one it was, and then you'd push the plunger to stop the light at the number. Whatever number you landed on was how many tickets you got. But was a kind of a fun idea for a simple Nickelodeon based arcade game. I think they could have done better, but I don't know. Maybe it was okay.
For the Super Nintendo one, is that I only played it once. My cousin had it. Am I remembering correctly that in order to actually like to win the game, you would have to switch between the three monsters, like depending on which one had the abilities to help? Like if you need to get from like the ground up to like a high shelf, you'd have to grow as Ickis, and then the others could like hop on him and they would run along, and then you could like, yeah,
Wow,
Crumb could
that's a
like
neat
throw his
Oblina,
eyeball to hit something, and then
I think
they could.
Oblina could use. I think you could use her like a whip.
Oh yeah, you could. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's a neat idea. Wow.
So yeah, you could interchange all the characters to be able to achieve certain obstacles that were in the way.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Kind of like a Mario 2 type of feel. I like that. That's neat.
It was a very well thought out game. Very well thought out. Like I said, that most playable game of all of them.
That
Move
was
your butt, Phoebe.
that was
She just
probably
like flicked her tail and it kept on her.
I
Like,
saw that. I was like, that was probably a toot. It's a
she's
little
being
toot.
she's being Miss Sassy Pants over here.
Gosh, I don't think. And of course, they had VHS tapes and they had books. I don't think they ever had any board games. I think it's one of the few. I don't think that or Rocco had board games.
Hmm.
The
I mean, I was
first
surprised to learn that Doug had a board game and a pretty cool looking one too. But yeah, I didn't know about half of those games existed, especially the Cardinal games.
oh gosh. So anyone who's interested, we have played almost all of the board games that Nickelodeon has come out with and we've got those episodes on Patreon just to see if you what they were like. But no, the Doug one was pretty fun. I'm really surprised they didn't do one for Our Real Monsters or Rocco's Modern Life, because they did one for everything else.
Yeah, well, Rocco, I'm not sure what you would do, but Real Monsters seems like you could just, yeah, have them scare different people for different points or something. Like it seems gamified.
They had that dirty game in Rocco. I don't think they could release that one. It's
They could have a magic meatball.
yeah, have the magic meatball or the spank the monkey game. So it's like I don't think Nickelodeon would have allowed that.
Don't whiz on the electric fence.
Oh jeez. But the question is, would you? Or would
Yes.
you not?
What was the next Nicktoon after Our Real Monsters? I'm completely blanking.
What, that was 94 to 97? So let me see what was in 97.
Cat Dog? I think Cat Dog was the next one, wasn't it?
What was
Rocket
it?
Power.
Was it Hey Arnold?
Hey Arnold. Hey Arnold.
Hey
It was
Arnold
definitely
was
Hey
next.
Arnold 96. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
I don't think Hey Arnold came out with a board game either.
Really?
Hmm.
Mm-mm.
I
Hey
figured it would.
Hey Arnold didn't. Um, Cat Dog didn't. I mean, there was a video game for that one, but and SpongeBob did. I think that was really the first. That was that was the first real Nicktoon to get board games again after the first three.
Well, they were probably just inventing it just to see like what would work and what wouldn't. Because maybe
And
they
video
felt like
games, kids were getting more into video games than
that's
board games by that
that's
point.
what I
Yeah.
mean. Yeah, like they would have probably went more with the video game aspect.
Well, they also had the movie maker that featured some of the real monsters.
It did.
Director's Lab.
Yeah.
Director's Lab, yeah.
Can either of you do the Ickis voice, like the whiny high pitch? I
I
can't
used to
do
as a
it.
kid. I
That's the
can't do it
closest
anymore.
thing.
Yeah.
What's a big part of a monster like me? Yeah, I don't think I can do it either. That's tough.
I don't know how Charlie Adler didn't wreck his voice doing that because Ickis is all over the place.
He is.
Yeah.
It's the hardest voice to do, I think, out of all of them. But
Just
yeah, it's
imagine the Crypt Keeper before puberty, and that's what it is.
Didn't he also? I gotta check. But didn't he also voice the big heads?
Yes, I believe he did.
I think so.
Which really confused me because I thought he voiced the Grumble too because he sounded like Mr. Big Head, but I was wrong. It was the other guy. So
So I talked a little bit about watching as a kid versus watching as an adult. What are your experiences?
aged perfectly. I think it's still a very entertaining show and you could get a lot from it. Because I mean, there are some lessons that make it, nice and humble for living a nice life. So,
I think it
yeah.
aged like milk.
You don't like it, Alex?
No, I love it. It's just, we're going the Our Real Monsters route instead of it aging like fine wine.
Oh,
Because I
okay.
love being smelly.
Mm.
You got to get something really gross in there.
Oh, Alex. Yes, all right.
No, I love it. I think I appreciate it's like Rocko's Modern Life for me. I liked it as a kid, but I didn't watch it continuously. It was just one of those background shows when I was a kid. If I wasn't doing anything, yeah, sure, I'll have it on. But if my attention's drawn to something else that I would rather do, than it often was. Um, but as an adult, I find far more to appreciate as an adult, especially some of those adult humor things that
Mhm.
we obviously did not catch when we were kids,
Sure.
but also the meaning that, like you were saying, so some of the messages that they had in these episodes are
Stuff you can take
really
with you.
they're really impactful, and I wish I had watched it more as a kid. Not to say that, man, these morals are. I wish I knew these when I was. I knew these morals because I had good influences in my life, but I completely missed these really meaningful, heartfelt moments because I was usually doing something else. But I really like it. I like it more now. I would say as a kid, I'd probably give it like 6 out of 10, like slightly above average. As an adult, as a series, I'd give it like an 8 out of 10. It's really good, and I really appreciate it. And I'm wanting to get in more involved with this show, especially on Splat Attack, but also to share it with my boys.
You know what else I love about it is that it ran for 4 seasons. It's a show that knew
Yes.
when it had nothing else to say, when it was finally done, and it finished well. So, unlike shows that are currently running now, they're just running into the ground.
But I mean,
That show
that
had a
was kind of the
perfect.
thing. That was kind of the
Yeah.
thing back then, because at the time, Rugrats was like three
Yeah,
seasons.
then it ended, and then it
Mm.
came back.
Doug was 4, and of course then
Yeah.
it went to Disney, but that was a whole different thing. Ren and Stimpy, I mean, they got to season 4, season 5.
I believe
Yeah.
they did.
I'm not sure about Nicktoons, but I know the live action shows, a lot of them, it was 5 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it. There was like 60 episodes, and then that was all that they were originally, unless the show did really, 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 really well. Like that was kind of the plan.
Yeah, no more than 5 typically. It's anywhere between 1 and 5 seasons, and then they would be done, and Nickelodeon would move on to something else. I
Yeah.
don't know if the showrunners would want to do more, which I'm sure that they would have preferred to do more because they get to do what they love to do. I can't think of a single occasion in Nickelodeon's history when the series creators were like, you know what, that's enough. Uh, I think the only occasion I can really think of was my brother and me, just because there was a major difference. There was what the creators wanted to do and what Nickelodeon wanted to do, and they couldn't come to an agreement. So they said, you know what, that's enough.
That's such a shame.
Yeah.
Ugh.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure that for the most part, this was more Nickelodeon's decision to, all right, we're going to end the show here, as opposed to what the creators wanted to do, which honestly, I think was a smart decision for Nickelodeon because they were able to keep changing things, and keep giving a new variety of stuff for people to enjoy.
I mean, didn't they want to do a movie, or was that just a rumor?
I don't know for a fact.
I gotta check it out. All
'Cause
Real Monsters movie.
Well, after a while, like there was the Nickelodeon movies where it was like Harriet the Spy, Good Burger, and then
Rugrats movie.
Rugrats. But after that, like
According to
I don't remember a
IMDb,
lot of fanfare after that.
after the Rugrats movie and how well it was received, there was some interest in trying to get production started for an All Real Monsters movie back in '98. But
Okay.
because story was too dark for children, they canceled the show or canceled the movie.
Hmm.
Lies. Jeez. Too scary. Censors could end that, you know? They could.
Well, at that point, they were going more along the lines of the all that SpongeBob sort of a little more lighthearted, a little less drama.
Very, very lighthearted and silly and campy. And I think at this point, also, parents were becoming a lot more involved in what their children were watching because my parents never watched what I was watching at the time. And I think only one time my mom heard queer on Rugrats, or not Rugrats, on Ren and Stimpy. And it was just I'm feeling a little queer because it was quite literally Waffle Woman right after she just got destroyed and her body was morphing. I feel a little queer, and then starts to move away, and mom was in the kitchen, went, what are you watching?
But it was in the correct, term.
It
Yeah.
was no derogatory reference whatsoever, just a, this is how she's feeling, she feels unusual. And then mom just from the kitchen, what are you watching? I'm watching Ren and Stimpy. Oh, okay. And that was it.
That was it.
Out of all the things she could have heard on Ren and Stimpy, that was what she went
That was
after.
and no one,
That
my
was
parents never
it.
batted an eye. I If it was Nickelodeon, it's safe. It's perfectly fine. And that was always, if it was a kids show, it was always okay. So they never watched. But back around '98, parents were starting to really get involved more because this is also around the time when Goosebumps was starting to get hit really bad by parents going, oh my gosh, the show is evil. These books are evil. That teaches witchcraft and all these horrible things. And then shortly after that, Harry Potter started becoming really big in the early 2000s, and parents were really, especially conservative parents, oh, witchcraft. Yeah, and you watch Cinderella with the fairy godmother. Shut up. There's witchcraft and all kinds of. You watch Wizard of Oz. You watch Bewitched. I Dream of Ginny. Shut up. Your argument is invalid. Goodbye. Dismissed. But yeah, it doesn't surprise me that it was too dark for kids. But if it had come out like 5 years sooner, no one would have batted an eye.
It's kind of weird because that's when Nickelodeon started to shift, I believe, to the formulaic stuff instead of the inventive stuff. And then they're like, just like you said, the parents getting more involved. They're like, my kid is spending a lot of time watching this. Let me take a look. And then, then they tell two friends and the other tells two friends and blah, 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 blah. Then everybody starts watching it. And that's when they get so much pressure out of like probably one letter being sent to them. And they're like, oh, we got to change everything.
Pat,
Yes.
what do you think about watching the show as an adult versus as a child?
I think I said it before. There were certain things now that I appreciate even more, sort of like you. Certain jokes that I didn't get when I was a wee child. Um, and I think it still holds up. I think I wouldn't say it's something that is necessarily catered to parents watching with their kids, but it was during a time of Nickelodeon where, it wasn't, um, it didn't feel like a chore to watch, sit down. Oh, I gotta watch Paw Patrol, or I gotta watch, I don't know, just like, oh, I'm being bombarded with all of this stuff now.
So
It's just
much
like it's a
truth to that,
story.
Cat. So
It's
much
a
truth.
story that no, like their characters were. I think a lot of the stuff in early Nickelodeon was also character driven. Like, yeah, they could do like some plot things, but ultimately it's like, oh, these characters are endearing. I would like to watch more. Um, so it was, yeah, less trying to be in your face educational in a way, and it was just like, let's tell a story in this environment with these characters who happen to be monsters. What is that like? What is that world like? And it was intriguing to see, like, okay, Harry Potter, what does a wizarding school look like? Okay, what does a monster scaring school, monster academy look like? It's like, yeah, you would get there from the sewer and the dump, and like, it makes sense. So I thought it was cool how they were just using even some of the gross atmosphere to their advantage to create this world. So from a story perspective, it's kind of cool. I enjoy it.
It worked so well, that whole universe did. You just sort of just accepted the fact that, oh, of course, there's monsters. They live in the dump. They travel through the toilets and everything, and their job is to scare. It's like, that's great. Like, that's all you need right there. Like, they put so much thought and care into this universe, and they did such a tremendous job.
Well, I think we are going to take a breather for a moment where we might go surfing in the tunnels for a little bit, the great surf, see what's going on in the world of Splat Attack, and we'll be back in just a few minutes with our segment for the episode, so stick around.
Sit tight. Real Monsters. We'll be right back on Nick.
Thank you all for listening to this episode of Splat Attack. If you enjoy our content, please hit the like button, subscribe, make sure to hit that notification bell. If you are listening on a podcast app, please leave us a review. I don't care if it's one and it says we're stink, we really appreciate it. We may not have an academy of monsters, but we do have a group of gagoids who love to get together every once in a while and watch some shows like Our Real Monsters over on our Patreon. Go to patreon.com/splatattack, where we have exclusive minisodes every Friday, slime streams twice a month, early access to our episodes, bonus content. We have a lot of fun. So join us over on patreon.com/splatattack. Each monster had their own design, and we have our fun designs on t-shirts. Go to bonfire.com/store/splatattack store with hyphens in between. There's the accent again. We have all kinds of fun, goofy t-shirts over on our Bonfire page. We have our logo. We have some Nick-themed things like Simmer Down with Stick Stickly. We've got the It Was Only 3 Pieces Silver Monkey t-shirt. We got a lot of cool stuff there. So go to bonfire.com/store/splatattack store with hyphens in between.
Tune in next time when we get Wienerized in time for the election day. Max Wiener will be joining us to discuss the Wienerville election special. You can catch all the splatterific action only here on Splat Attack.
And now back to Real Monsters on Nickelodeon.
All right, class is now in session. It's time for the good scares. No scare me! But we are going to do our segment for the episode, which for this episode, our boy Manny came up with this. Manny, what is our segment for this episode, bub?
It's going to be Say What?
Say what?
Say what?
Say what?
Say what?
Say
Say what?
Say what is the segment we're doing?
I was hoping you were going to do that. Yes.
Do we have a new thing we're gonna do with every time Cat's on the show?
Yes, sir. That is correct. That is
Two
correct.
episodes in a row now of, hey, this is the segment, and this is the segment that we're doing.
All right. Anyway, say what? Okay, for 1 point. Being normal is vastly overrated.
Yeah.
Alex.
Yeah, I think that'll be my. Sound like I'm burping.
Okay, Alex.
Was that Ikis?
Yes, it was.
Oh, I wanted to say Oblina.
Oh,
Huh.
that's 1 point.
Being normal is that. Nope, I can't do it. I can't do it. Ikis voice.
Sure you can. For 1 point. Look, a can of Bians.
Ooh, I know.
Cat.
That one's Crumb.
Yes, correct.
I remember that sound. Like
BNs.
Biens.
For 2 points, you need to scare the pants off of everything that moves, and that takes guts. Alex had his hand up first.
Easily the Grumble.
Correct.
You need to scare them. That's okay. That's just coming out really bad now. I can't.
That
I can't
takes
do it.
guts.
And that takes guts. I can't do a Grumble voice.
Does
I
it so
can't.
softly.
You need to scare the pants off everything that moves, and that takes guts. I can't. I can't. I'm gonna try though.
All right. For 2 points. Even your stomach is not that loud.
Give you a chance there, Cat.
Is that one Oblina?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Next, for 3 points. Even idle chatter, I am in the mood for scaring. Oh wait, enough of this idle chatter. I'm in the mood for scaring.
Idle chatter sounds like Oblina.
Yes,
Okay.
Correct.
Idle chatter. I am in the mood for scaring.
Perfect. For 3 points. I'm a walking disaster just waiting to happen. Alex had his hand up first.
That Ikis.
Yes, correct.
That's his motto.
Yeah.
That couldn't be anybody else.
Oh, God. It's mine sometimes.
Aw.
Anyway, for 3 points. You couldn't scare a snail. Alex.
Grumble.
Yes,
You
correct.
got to scare a snail.
If it's in all caps or has enough exclamation marks, it's
Yeah,
a
you'll
grumble.
know.
And for 5 points. The monster's out of my brain now! And New York!
New York! That's
Cat.
Simon. That's
It's-
Jim Belushi.
It sure is. Jeez. Cat, you're our winner.
Ooh.
You
No! Oh, because I got
11
the 5-pointer at the
have,
end?
yeah. Cat has 11 points. Alex has 9.
Nice.
Close. It was a close game.
You got- yeah, you
Close
would've
game.
won.
Well done. Well done.
New
Nice
York!
Nice job, everybody. That is
Love
our
it.
Say What segment of the day.
Hey, Chucky. Well,
There's a monster under the bed, Tommy! I can't do it.
That was great.
I wasn't nasal enough. I need to be more up here.
do it when you have a cold.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's easy.
genius.
You'll have the perfect Christine Cavanaugh voice whenever you have a cold.
Mm. I'll probably get con cred from SplatCon and then I'll do it.
Before we close out our episode for the 30th anniversary of Our Real Monsters, I think that hurt my throat doing that voice.
Oh,
I couldn't hear it.
Yeah,
I
see,
can't-
that's why I don't scream it. But we do have our closing question for the episode, and our closing question is: if you were a monster, what would be the hardest thing? Traveling through toilets or eating garbage? Gotta finish the question. Is traveling through toilets or eating garbage the hardest thing? Let us know down below in the comments section, or you can write to us via email at splatattack2021@gmail.com, or you can reach out to us on all of our socials. Just look for @SplatAttack Podcast. If you've not subscribed to our YouTube channel, do that, because we love you. We're glad you're here, and we want to have you around more. So do it. Do it. Shia LaBeouf, do it. Until our next episode, guys, will you help me close up the studio, please? I don't want to be left alone with all this talk about monsters.
Wait, what was that?
Yeah, purple toilet monster. Oh, it's just a purple dress. My eyes are just playing tricks on me.
Oh. Whose dress is that?
Haunted purple dress.
You don't have to tell us twice!
It just did.
Splat you later, Slimesters!
I.
This episode was recorded at Splat Studios, in virtual home studios, though none in Florida.